We're very hopeful that what God gave us through nature, we are here to preserve and fight for it. Okay?
Point in having Dr. Consalter here in the series of conversations is if you have not gone to a medical doctor or you have not talked to your doctor yet about cannabis use, I really wanted to give an opportunity for individuals to do that. I know that even sometimes doctors are not willing to talk about cannabis. Fortunately, I do have a personal doctor that does that, so I feel empowered, and I want y'all to as well. So that's why we have Dr. Consalter, because he's a doctor, and he can tell you things way better than me about medicine and cannabis. And just in case you don't know who Dr. Consalter is.
Okay, so I'm an immigrant. I'm originally from Brazil, South America, which means I live close to the jungle. Nature is not strange for me, and yes. But so when I came to the U.S., University of Miami, University of Illinois, did my internship residency. I was a chief resident, and then they liked me at the university and they sponsored me to stay as a teacher for 5 years so I could get my green card, and I did. I'm really proud for being here, proud to serve my patients. We did in 8 years about 70,000 visits, okay, including new patients, follow-ups and everything, We have several patients they pay, and then they bring grandma who's on social security disability, or the uncle who has cancer, terminal, we don't charge them. Terminal people, they're already destroyed, correct? They don't have money. So we help. We do home visits for seniors a lot of times, They go to senior buildings and nursing homes and turning that into the cards, and then we establish a relationship with the nurses. So establish dosage, for the THC, CBD, and so on. So, and I always say something, you're never gonna heal a patient if you don't heal the soul of your patient. If you don't touch the spirit, forget about it. We are mind, body, and soul. They don't teach us that in medical schools. Just your body and your mind. Soul doesn't exist for a doctor. That's bad, isn't it? It's half of you. It's your energy, it's your quantum, your entanglement. But we get there. No, I do mine when I use cannabis really is for sleep, anxiety for sure. But I use usually I use like G-Kush, indica, anywhere between 10 and 20, sometimes 25 milligrams, and knock me out. I do use CBD some during the day sometimes. If I'm already tired, my energy is low, then I use. But I don't listen, I enjoy marijuana. Understand? So when I'm doing it, I just want to have my little trip and be safe and sleep. And I don't like to make it work. There's too much stress and toxicity and craziness,
Jesus. I just hope we get some.
I have my oldest daughter. She's autistic. So she's been using it for 5 years. That's the only thing that worked for her. The only thing was cannabis. Yeah. Well, we tried probably like 7 different medications, antipsychotic, everything. They just they make them zombies and that's it, So, yeah, I do have a very large autistic population with me because of stuff. And people from everywhere, from Springfield, here, Illinois, everywhere. And I speak about it. And incentivize the parents to make the kids. They have to. I mean, if you ever see like a kid with Asperger's, which is in the spectrum, they suffer a lot because they're highly intelligent human beings and they cannot express themselves. And they can push to conflict, Okay. What happens when you smoke marijuana after you do a mushroom?
You peak longer.
Yeah, you do. You peak hella.
Why?
Well, because
The trip is bigger.
It's a
because it's a psychoactive. It's activating.
No, it's very interesting. The research is showing actually the marijuana enhances the 5-HT2 receptors, where LSD and the psychedelics they touch. So marijuana actually opens the gate for you to have a bigger kick. But the cool thing is,
Well,
the
that's beautiful.
psychedelics also enhance the endocannabinoid receptors. So he said, no, it's nature working together, man.
Hey man, it was laid out for us.
Bro.
It was laid out for us.
You guys have to follow the Psychedelic Society, IPS, because they're coming with the HBO1 law to decriminalize mushrooms in psychedelics, yeah.
So does that mean that they'll be able to do more like federal
You're gonna-
research into
no,
it
you're
or
gonna
stuff like
Colorado, the whole thing coming. And then when the law came, I was kind of skeptical. And until I met one patient, they turned the whole thing around. Okay, this guy was a doctor, Dr. Miller. He had stage 4 lung cancer. Okay, so they wouldn't do chemo or radiation for him. And the tumor involved around his heart, which means he could die any second. This guy loaded himself with Ray Simpson oil. Okay, he loaded. The first scary thing is when he went back to the doctors in 3 months, they couldn't believe he was alive. So they scanned the guy, and the tumors were there, but he was already shrinking. And then after 6 months, when they scanned him again, it was gone. Okay, so he said, holy smoke, this does work. There's some truth behind it. And then they had several women with cancer, breast cancer, metastatic to the spine, stage 4, and the lesions were stable. And same happened to another friend of mine, who was my patient. He had colon cancer to the liver, also stage 4. And this guy was interested because he owned a dispensary and he loaded with aerosol, and he kept doing it. So he went to Mayo Clinic. When they took his tumor out, all the cancer cells were dead. You know, and then that's all the movement now. You know, there's a lot of oncology, neurology, surgeons working to figure it out. And most of the studies are in animal models, and they're doing one in San Diego and also in Tokyo, Japan, where they open the mouth with brain cancer, they induce cancer to the mouth, and they inject the rat's brain with the aerosol, and they kill the cancer that way, with direct injection. So,
Does everybody understand what RSO is, Rick Simpson oil is? Are y'all familiar with
Could
that?
you explain it to me a little bit?
Okay, would you like to? Okay, so Rick Simpson oil, I'm not like a to the T expert, but it is a extraction that uses generally like petroleum to be able to pull the cannabis out of the plant. So it's supposed to be highly effective in absorption, and you don't have to do anything. You can just like eat it, and it's already ready for you to go. So that's not how all, as you already know, not all extracts are made in that same fashion.
Yep.
And so part of that is because like using petroleum. But it does, as Dr. Consalter stated, seem to have a very high effective rate if you look into Rick Simpson, his story, and just so I want
yeah,
to see.
there's several videos on you can get on YouTube that actually, you know, people having seizures, boom, drop the aerosol in the tongue, and Parkinson's, shaking, aerosol. You can see that. Yeah, like you said, aerosol is the groove, is the whole shebang concentrated. Okay. So Rick Simpson started himself doing the oil, the concentrate that he created for skin cancer. Okay, and he killed it. Afterwards, you know, American Cancer Society, American Society of Dermatology, they all refused his data. They refused his publication. But his farm in North Carolina became a hospital because everybody started going after his guy until the police and the DA arrives, and again, war on drugs, he gets arrested. And for the right reasons, he left the United States. He lives in Parliament, you know. But he's available online anytime for anybody. He's a holistic man, and you know. So that was the beginning of the revolution. But then, well, there's 2 drugs that work for autism. They're being studied. One is marijuana, The other is mushrooms, psychedelics, LSD.
Wow.
All that. Yeah. Yeah, because what marijuana does
That
and
is-
the psychedelics do, it's called neuroplasticity. You know, neuroplasticity it means your brain start reconnecting.
Yeah.
Okay? And both cannabis and the psychedelics, they activate what we call the neurotrophins, which are enzymes that makes your brain cell grows back again. So it's amazing, you know, it's an amazing solution. What came after to me was even more striking than cancer, because then I started receiving the fibromyalgia, the rheumatoid arthritis patients, seizures. And then we started receiving patients with multiple sclerosis, MS, Crohn's disease, and they were all going stable. But the mental health patients were the bad side, because they stopped doing the benzodiazepines, the antidepressants, and sticking to the cannabis guidelines, and they're doing great. Those people are functional. And they're not using cocaine or heroin now, they're not going after fentanyl. That's why we do that. Harm reduction is another key factor. We take people from addiction with cannabis. It works. So, multiple sclerosis is a very interesting diagnosis, because sometimes you see a patient who's using cannabis and you do a scan of their brain, it looks like a Christmas tree. Like the guy should be paralyzed and they're normal. So needless to say that the cannabis industry became a radical competitor of the big pharma industry. All the evidence we have, the evidence-based medicine guidelines, medical school, residency, hospitals, nursing schools, is all based on the data sponsored by the big pharma. Okay, so here we are in a situation that we definitely, it's very hard for us to publish data, because the FDA does not accept, cannabis outside of the federal, regulation, which they seeks license for federal research. And the highest growth of medical cannabis, the highest growth rate per population right now is elders, the seniors. Because the arthritis is there, they're going to start dementia. Okay? So, my first experience as a doctor with cannabis is when I was working back in 2010 with Vitas Hospice doing palliative medicine. And we had several terminal cancer patients, all terminal cancer. And then we started observing the patients that were using cannabis. They were living happier, eating better energy, and they were going through their chemo radiation much better than the ones who were not using it. And that was the beginning of California movement, Marijuana is a very, very potent anti-inflammatory antioxidant, because it has three components with it. You have the THC, you have the CBD, the cannabinoids, and you have the terpenes, and so avoid inflammation in the brain. There's a study from New York University, the neuroscientists using cannabis, for aging mice, aging rats. And then he came to the conclusion that people who are using marijuana today between the 40 and 60s, they're going to become demented at 120 years old, because it really slowed down the process. Once established, dementia diagnosis is very hard to turn around, but I've seen, what I can tell you, if you have diagnosis of Alzheimer's, you're going to stabilize and you're going to have a better end of your life. But the goal, and that's something that would take 20, 30 years to prove, that actually marijuana might prevent neurodegenerative disorders, all of them, which include Parkinson's, dementia, traumatic brain injury, chronic concussions, symptoms. So we're very hopeful that what God gave us through nature, we are here to preserve and fight for it, okay? The doctors should be doing much more cannabis than they do, actually. For the lifestyle they have in a kind of stress environment. As you know, doctors and nurses, they have a much higher rate of PTSD than military, okay? it's about 18% versus 13%. You know, and mainly trauma, intensive care unit, operating room, you know, all the busy healthcare facilities. It is highly demanding for doctors. The cool thing is marijuana activates the circadian system of sleep hygiene, so you have a good sleep the way it's supposed to be. It just reintegrate, just like a clock, like a watch, you know. We need to be careful for the patient's mental health, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, because it definitely can destabilize, you know, but that's very minority. But I have a lot of patients also with schizophrenia, and it's interesting because once they have the diagnosis established, their symptoms like hallucinations and paranoia, they get better, they chill out, and that's what they tell me, you know, they need it. So, and they don't become psychotic as often, you know. Go ahead.
I have something.
And watch the first dose. But the first dose should not be a microdose. It should be like 1.5 grams, 2 grams, like a bang. Yeah, you get a bang for your shot, then you can start.
To go down.
Yeah, you just said, you know, like people with PTSD, you know, trauma from war, trauma from surgery.
And are we
You need to
speaking?
get a black and dark in those guys' brain.
Are we speaking shrooms, or are we talking cannabis for microdosing? Oh, for both.
Yeah, the cannabis microdose is excellent as well, but you're gonna need a trip, man. What cures people is the dissociation. You understand what dissociation means? Like you feel your soul getting out of your body, and that's when your brain is like start relaxing. And then you will shake the structure, you do the neuroplasticity, and from then on, take your journey. Read, go to YouTube, do your own research before you go deep in. I've seen.
When we're trying to find our limits for microdosing, having individuals around us that we trust to get
Well, microdose is fine. Microdose is not gonna, but if you're gonna do a macro, like a big, like a 1.2,
Okay.
1.5 grams, 2 grams,
Macro.
you gotta have somebody watching.
Macro.
So macro, so
Yeah, big
macro
dose.
1.5, micro you should be pretty fine if you're under that.
Microdose 200 milligrams.
So why
You know?
recommend doing a macro dose instead of a micro your first?
No, you start with the big dose, then you move to the small dose.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I believe is the right pathway to do it, you know? Because we do the ketamine infusion, and then you have the lozenges, which is at the smaller dose. So it only works when they have the big infusion, the big association, you
What
know?
is first? Activate?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's but the cool thing is, we're gonna watch more and more. The psychedelic thing. I mean, I haven't, another one that I haven't seen an overdose yet, and I haven't seen, you know, there's freaks who takes LSD like out of control, go to the emergency room, all those things. So that's dangerous. As long as you know what you're doing, there's somebody watching you and you are educated, you're good. Education is key for the future of humanity, period. Otherwise, we're not gonna have a planet pretty soon, you know? Careful with cannabis in the younger population, because if they have an exposition to schizophrenia, they will develop it. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the kids, if they overuse it, their brain becomes a spot. They don't want to do anything. They don't, you know. So, do we have to talk to the kids about it? Yes, some of them will need it for sure, you know. But you know, at this point, what? The problem, you know, what's going on in Latin America, okay, Latin America is trying to open for the medical, okay, and then we are opening the market in Lima, Peru, right now. And unfortunately, the narcos are too strong over there into the politics, you know.
Interesting.
So they want to keep the market to themselves, and so I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, anything major there, you know.
And so, It sounds like you've witnessed some evolutions. There's still some historical pressures in terms of the Brazilian market, but you see.
Well, Brazil is Catholic, okay? Brazil is a hit or miss. Either you're gonna have a Brazilian liberal, you know, like me and, you know, progressive, or you're gonna have like hardcore Christian against everything. You know, so it's difficult, you know, but we're gonna win.
And